Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. This is Dan with Gears and Gadgets. If you watched my video last week, you'll see this car here. This is what it looks like before I'd done any work to it, and this is what it looks like today. So I'm standing here now a week later after I posted my first video when I returned home with this 2008 Crown Victoria Police Interceptor. If you haven't watched my previous videos, this car has 97,000 miles on it, 354 idle hours on the idle hour meter. So this car still has a ton of life left into it. In my previous video, I had mentioned that I was into this car for just over $2,100, and that includes towing this thing back home, the 2 days it took me to go and get it. It was a pretty brutal trip, but I'll link that video up above for that story. I won't go back through that again. So what am I into this car for now? So obviously this doesn't include any labor. I did all the labor myself. What did it take? Well, it took me an hour for 2 days in a row. I tried to do it when I got home from work to film with daylight because, well, filming in the dark doesn't really totally work. So first day I was able to, within an hour, remove the hood, the header panel, basically the whole front end, the bumper. So I got those parts all done. The next day it took me an hour to get the fender off, which was a little bit more involved, basically, you know, an hour into one part alone. But basically it took me 2 hours to strip this whole thing down and get it ready for the part. Now, I also wanted to mention that Summit Racing did sponsor me for this build, so I was able to basically put all these parts on the front end of this car, for the most part, from a sponsorship with Summit Racing. So I do thank them very much for that. I will also include in the description down below all the parts and pieces that were provided from Summit, and also the parts that I had to buy outside of Summit to put this all together. And there's still a couple more things I need to add on at this point, but I did want to share with you the progress that I have with the vehicle as we stand today, a week later after I got home with the vehicle. And, you know, basically all in, this took me 2 days to tear it down, which really wasn't 2 days, it was just an hour twice. So 2 days, an hour each to tear it down. I had it all put back together on a Saturday in the matter of 5 hours, which is pretty incredible to me. I've never done any body work before, so this was all new to me. A couple little scrapes on the hands and stuff like that, but otherwise, again, everything is in really good shape. So what did it cost to do this and build? So the sponsorship with Summit Racing, really what it did was allowed me to build this out with all new parts as opposed to having to go to the junkyard. Would I recommend doing it, buying these parts from Summit? And the answer to that would be, if time is a constraint to you, which it is to me, then 100% getting these parts drop shipped to you, delivered UPS, it's just a huge time saver. It prevents you from having to go to the junkyard, pull all these parts. You might find wrecked parts as you're going through it and have to go and pull from another vehicle. You know, you might get parts from different vehicles. It's just kind of a bit of a nightmare. For me, that's about a little over a 30-minute drive to get to the junkyard. So there's an hour commute back and forth. It's basically going to kill an entire Saturday just yanking all these parts off of cars, and it's just kind of a bit of a nightmare. So I'm not saying you can't do it, but I definitely appreciated doing this all with new parts from Summit Racing. The next thing is I have to take this vehicle to the Arizona DMV, where they're going to do an inspection of the vehicle. That inspection is basically a salvage title inspection. It's a level 3. They go through it and make sure that everything was done properly and that you weren't using stolen parts to reassemble the vehicle. That is a big thing, chop shops and all that stuff. So if you are going to tackle something like this, I do recommend that you keep records of everything that you do, receipts from everything that you purchase, because they will require it at the DMV, at least here in Arizona, and I believe in every other state that I'm aware of will do the same thing. So to share with you guys all the numbers, I basically would have been into this car at this point, if I would have had to buy all the stuff that was provided from Summit Racing, about $3,200 is where I would be sitting today as far as what I've spent on this vehicle. Well, because of the Summit Racing sponsorship, I'm into it for about $2,400. Now I still need to get a paint job on it. That's going to be about a $750 paint job is what I'm figuring for that. Now, I posted some of my process on Reddit, and Reddit is not a very friendly place, as you've seen in my previous video where I mentioned some of the comments that I had received, but I did ask some questions, and one of the things I did find underneath this plastic bumper cover is that the bumper that came with this car was just wrecked. It was bent pretty bad, and when I looked at it first, I thought, you know, maybe I'll just straighten it back out, and the internet crushed me for that, and I thank them for doing it, because I was kind of thinking along the lines of I didn't feel like going and getting a bumper and doing all that stuff, so I was just going to kind of fix it up, and I kind of discounted the safety factor of that, which was a pretty big mistake, and people quickly corrected me with that. So right away I ordered that part from Ford directly, because again, I didn't want to go to the junkyard and deal with having to pull a bumper I figure for the safety aspect, it was only $100 to get it from the dealer, so the $70 that I might have saved getting it from a dealer, totally not worth it in my opinion. And the other part that I got from the dealership directly is this corner lamp that was destroyed. I didn't want to deal with getting one off of a used junker car. Sometimes they can be pretty sun-faded and beat up, cracked up and stuff like that. It was only $30 from the dealer, so I ordered that as well. There was another bracket that came on the header panel that was just destroyed in the accident, so I replaced that as well. So some of those things that came straight from the dealer. A big part of why these cars were very popular with police departments until they were discontinued is because the availability of parts was just huge. And the ability to fix these things. One thing I learned with this Crown Vic is I feel like these cars were built to be smashed up. I mean, the ability to have that front end impact, whatever happened to it, happen, and to be able to just replace these body panels is pretty incredible. What I did have to do in some instances was, because this header panel, which comes across, they call it a radiator support actually, comes across, there's a rubber bushing that was bent back, and then the car sat for 3 months. So I think what happened was that rubber bushing had a bit of a memory, and it kind of stayed bent back. So naturally what it did was it wanted to push this fender back into that door jamb, and what I had to do was take some ratchet straps, kind of pull it all back forward again, tighten everything down, and the gaps at the door, at the passenger door, are actually quite fine. As you can see here, I can open this door now quite fine. It has all the clearance it needs to open and shut without hitting on this fender. I was also able to take a suction cup, pop it on the door, pulled most of that dent out. It needs a little bit of body work, but not a whole lot. Also, you know, this door has bulletproof panels in it, so that also makes it a little more effort to have to pull it apart and knock that dent out if I had to do it. So really, all in, this car is straight now. Everything's in pretty good shape. Again, there's a couple gap issues that I don't even know if I'm going to worry all that much about, to be totally honest with you. It's just not a huge deal to me. If I was going to be reselling this car, it's something I would be a little bit more concerned about, but you know, I will do a little bit of tweaking, but I'm not going to get super crazy with it. I also, through this entire process, forgot to order a grill. That was one of the things, so I just kind of tossed the old one on here now, which is still smashed up. I'm going to switch it to the black grill. I think I'm going to try to do like a black and tan with this car, just because repainting the whole thing is probably not going to be super budget friendly. I don't feel like spending $2 grand on a paint job, so I'll probably just work on painting the front end, hopefully staying in like a $750-ish range to do that, and then try to make it not look so old man gold with, you know, the current color. The gold and chrome just makes it look like a you know, grandpa's dream. So I'm going to try to just, you know, go with that little bit of a black to youngen it up a little bit, I guess you'd say. Probably tint out the windows and you know, call it that. I'm not sure if I'm going to remove the hubcaps, only because I don't want to go super cop car. I don't want to make it look like it's you know, a street cop car, but depending on how it looks after the paint job, I may scrap those hubcaps and go from there. Now the next step is, again, I told you guys I'm gonna have to go through the DMV inspection, which is planned. It's unfortunately still a couple weeks away because of their scheduling currently. So the car is gonna have to sit for a couple weeks, which kind of stinks. I would love, you know, to get out and drive it around, but the next step is getting it through that inspection. Once I get it through that inspection, then I'll worry about paint. I'm not gonna spend money on a paint job to have it fail some salvage inspection for some reason unbeknownst to me. So I'll go through and get it all painted. I will get the interior cleaned up because the interior is a disaster. I could shampoo it myself, but there's actually a shop around the corner that'll do it for like $150, which is their normal rate. So I'll probably just drop it to them and let them do it, really hammer it with some professional tools and clean up the interior real well. And then this car should be in really great shape. I mean, I'm very happy with the condition that it's in now. Guys, thank you very much for sticking with me. This car is going to have quite a bit more done to it in the near future. Again, I wanted to just share with you guys the prices of what it costs to build this thing out. So this is my update of where I am currently budget-wise on this Crown Vic. So again, thank you guys very much for tuning in. If this is your first time tuning in, please click that subscribe button down below. Remember, likes go a long way to help support the channel, and we will see you guys next time. Next time won't be with this car because it's gonna have to sit for a couple weeks until that inspection goes through, but do stay tuned. There is quite a bit more coming up with this vehicle as I go through, clean it up, get it painted up, and get it you know, rolling on the road again. So stay tuned, we'll see you guys next time.